funding proposals for projects. We'll go through a particular example of one of our existing projects. We have developed a fundraising proposal or a profile or a case, as you would call it, and we'll demystify that step by step to what is the purpose of that particular document and what are the different sections. Can I quickly check that people can actually see my screen? Yeah, thumbs up. Great. And you can hear me as well? Fantastic. Okay, great. So I'll go back to my presentation. In terms of the agenda for today, of course, as usual, we'll have a section on housekeeping initially. Then I'll speak about the various things that RAWCS is doing in relation to fundraising to give you a background on that. We'll also speak about the importance of having a strong fundraising proposal, and then break it down for you step by step to what is that and what it is made of. I'll also then share some tips for success and how you can collaborate with RAWCS on your funding proposals and also your journey to raise more funds for your projects. And then there'll be a Q&A at the end also. Now, first thing first, can I suggest that you mute your microphones at the beginning? If you go to your screens, at the top right, you'll see a button, and that's where the mute button is. So please mute your microphones, so that way then we have a better quality of sound coming through. Also, just so you know, the webinar will be recorded. John Robertson is recording the webinar and will be made available on our website shortly after the webinar. Also, I would encourage you that if you have any questions while I speak or my other colleagues speak, that you do not hold off on those questions. Rather, you chat them away in the chat function. Again, at the top right, there is a function of chat. You can go there and chat and put your question into chat. John Robertson will be moderating the chat, and he can then let me know that there are questions. I'll be pausing every now and then to go back to the chat function and see if there are any questions, and John Robertson will help me with that. I'd also like to introduce my new colleague, Nish Eve, who is our new fundraising and partnerships officer. She is on the screen. You can see her waving. If you don't see her on your screen, you need to scroll towards your right or left and see where she is. She is in the blue rotary color. Can you see that? Yeah? Okay, great. So I'll now proceed. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to highlight in relation to background to RAWCS's fundraising efforts is the fact that we have developed a fundraising guide, which I have printed here with me. I have it in physical copy. You have a copy of that made available to you previously when we did a webinar on fundraising guide. If you don't have a copy of the fundraising guide, please put your email address in the chat function, and John Robertson will make sure that you actually get a copy of that. It is also, I believe, available on our website, and John can put the link to that also. So you can just click on the link and go and get a copy of the fundraising guide. This is not something new. We did that earlier this year, and I actually did a webinar on that. The second thing is you may also be aware that we have now access to Grants Hub and also Path Guide. These are two different platforms to which we actually pay a subscription, and we have made that subscription available to each and every one of you. You can log in with our username and password and go and see all sorts of funding opportunities, whether those are from government, from the philanthropic sector, or from the corporate sector. If you don't have your login details, please email myself, Belinda, or Nish, and we'll provide you those details. Again, I believe that you should have this already, but just in case if you don't or you have not attended the previous webinars, then please reach out to us. Because what I'm trying to do is to give you a recap of what we have done in the fundraising support space for you, the project managers or people who are involved with projects. There's the fundraising guide, the grants hub and PAF guide access, which is databases of fundraising opportunities, current active fundraising opportunities that are available. In terms of RAWCS as a whole, it is twofold. One is, of course, we keep looking at opportunities at our level and identify relevant opportunities, and then we reach out to you where we identify that a project may benefit from a particular fundraising opportunity or from a particular partnership. And then the other thing is that we are trying to equip you with the tools and with the know-how and the knowledge so you can do fundraising or more new types of fundraising at your level as well. So therefore, it is multiplying and amplifying the impact. It's not only me or Nish sitting here and assisting you, but it's also equipping you with the skills to actually go and do fundraising. And finally, we are in the process of bringing in a new service as RAWCS to you project managers, whereby you can request intensive fundraising support and how we can assist you with writing grant applications. The details of that to follow soon. So that is just a quick recap of the background on the fundraising support that we provide to you, the project managers. Now, I'd like to move to the importance of a strong fundraising proposal. Why it is important to have a strong fundraising proposal. The first point is that when you have a clear, incredible, well-structured fundraising proposal document that clearly communicates the problem that you're trying to address, the solution that you have come up to address that problem, and the impact it is having on the community, then that can help donors quickly understand the value of your project and the legitimacy of your project. If you're not clear yourself in how you sell your project or how you explain and describe your project, and what problem it is that you're trying to solve, and what is the solution that you are introducing, in what geography, what type of impact it is having, then of course the donors would not be as interested as you'd expect them to be. Think about it as if you're selling, let's say, a product, let's say a phone that you're selling. If you don't explain the features of this phone really clearly, then there may be competitors in the market who may be doing a better job than you. So therefore, they may be selling their phones, but you may not be able to because it's not very clear as to what exactly it is that your project does. The second thing that is important to highlight in any fundraising proposal is that you need to have an emotional and strategic appeal. Humans connect with emotions, and donors are no exception. If you have stories of humans, or let's say if you're working with environment or if you're working with animals, stories of compassion and emotion actually connect much deeper compared to just having a high level kind of like understanding of what your project impacts may be. So therefore, it's very important to actually tell compelling stories of how your project will be impacting the lives of people and how the values and goals of a philanthropic foundation or government will be achieved through supporting this particular project. So it's very important to put an emotional appeal into any of your fundraising application that you're putting out there. The other thing which is important is that when you have a clearly articulated document, it actually shows that you are organized, that you know about your project, that you're ready to implement your project effectively, and that increases donor confidence because you'd like to give donors who are giving you their money the confidence that you are very well structured and organized and you know what you're doing so that they can give you money, but not only one time and potentially come again and again. And therefore, that's where the impact in measuring impact comes. let's say a donor is giving you $100,000 or whatever the amount may be, it's very important that you actually communicate to them the expected outcomes and also the metrics that are there, so that donors are reassured of the usage of their funds and that there are trackable results that are happening as a result of their funding. Another aspect of a strong fundraising proposal is that it will build trust through transparency. And what that means is that when you clarify what type of governance structures you have in place to oversee your project, what type of accountability and financial records that you keep, that actually helps donors build trust in your project and also have a long-term relationship with you. And then finally, the importance of a strong fundraising proposal is, of course, most importantly, that it gives your funding proposal the best chance of success with a donor. Because the reason why you're preparing a fundraising proposal or a business case or a case for support or a project profile, whatever the name you give it, at the end of the day, it's the same document that you're preparing. And the objective of that document is that you're trying to sell that to a donor, to a corporate, to government to get their money so you can implement your project. So therefore, being very clear and being clear with your emotional storytelling and also demonstrating preparedness and highlighting measurable impact builds trust, but also gives you a much higher chance of success. I'd like to stop there before I actually go into breaking down the case for support or the project fundraising proposal to answer any questions, and then I'll come back to that. So let's see if there are any questions in the chat.
Yes, Mahir, you've got one from Robert Herman. Do you have a template for writing the funding request?
Very good question.
Yeah.
Yes, so today's template that we'll be just going through in terms of breaking it down is a template that we'll be providing to all of you in Word document, so you can simply edit the different sections and create it for your own project. That's the reason why we did it this way. We selected one of the 430 or so projects that we have, and we worked actually on this case as a real case study. We have completed it, and now we'd like to go through that and then give you the same template so you can actually use it for your own purposes. That's the very purpose of today's webinar. So definitely we are going to be doing that. Any other questions?
Yes, a second question from Charlene Cohen. Can she get a copy of the slides? Your slides. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think, John, you may want to get the email address of this particular person asking the question, so you can email them the slides also.
Will do.
Any other questions? John?
No,
okay.
No, that's at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll go back to my presentation. Okay, so breaking down the case for support. And that is the first thing, of course, is an executive summary. And by the way, I'll be speaking about this at a high level now, and very soon I'll actually start sharing my other screen whereby I'll be taking you through the actual case that we have done. The first thing that you'll see in that actual case is that we have an executive summary, which clearly states what exactly the problem is that we are trying to solve, and what is the solution that we are bringing or the innovation that we are bringing to solve that problem. And we also highlight the funding needs. So that's very important, that if you're sending a funding proposal to a donor, to a busy corporate person or government person, that you actually make it super clear at the top at the executive summary as to exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve with that in very short, concise way, because not all people will have time to read the entire 10 pages or 5 pages or 20 pages of your proposal. So it's very important to have a very good executive summary. The second thing is, of course, you need to demonstrate the need with data and also show the context, show the urgency and relevance. For example, if you want to work in the area of let's say bushfire recovery. Let's say there are bushfires in Australia and you have a project, you need to actually explain the context, how urgent it is, why it is relevant to that particular donor, and how many people are impacted, or what geography, or what's the side of the geography that's impacted, and what type of solution you're bringing. Then, of course, you need to speak particularly about the solution. It's very important to be clear and concise about the solution, because oftentimes the problem that we are trying to solve with our projects are quite big projects. They're much bigger than the solution that we can provide. So it's very important to highlight the innovation that we are bringing into the solution and how that is going to be made sustainable. Of course, highlighting impact is very important with real case examples, and being clear as to how much money you need. If you're saying, "Oh, I have this particular project that I'm working with women, let's say of domestic violence victims and all that," and you tell all the good stories and the emotional side of things and all that, but you're not clear to how much money you need over how long period of time, people be really confused as to what exactly it is that they can do for you in terms of support. Is it $700 that you need? Is it $20,000 that you need? Is it $100,000 that you need? Or how much period? And if they give you, let's say, $100,000, what exactly it is that you can achieve with that rather than $50,000. So it's very clear, important to be clear. And also, donors often want to be offered ways to be recognized. It's very interesting in Australia. If you compare the Australian corporate sector to the American one, in America, there is law that if corporates give you money, they can't actually use that as part of their marketing to tell the world, oh, how much of a good corporate citizen they are as corporates. Because they're doing this great work. But in Australia, corporates actually can use that for getting more business. Let's say, what would be a good example? Let's say Bupa, being the insurance company, assists a project with us to help people who have dementia or whatever the case may be, a particular type of disease. Now, Bupa can actually use that to promote their own brand, to say, look, we are not only a corporate company that is making big money and big profits, but we're doing this good thing for the community as well. And when people hear that or see that, this actually creates affinity to Bupa's brand, and people may be going and buying more of Bupa's products compared to QBE or other insurance companies. So in Australia, it's actually allowed, but in the United States, you can't do that. So because we are operating in Australia, you may need to be really clear, particularly when you work with corporates, as to how you can recognize them or show that they can benefit from being a partner with you. I mentioned earlier that it's very important that you speak about when you're putting a funding proposal as to what type of governance you've got in place, and what type of reporting you will be doing back, and what type of structures you've got, so that people are clear in terms of the reporting that they can expect, and the transparency of the project. So this is where I go and open that other document. Just give me 1 second and I'll walk you through this step by step. But again, I'll stop here for a moment and then answer any questions. John, can you please look into that until I bring this other document?
Yes, there's no more questions, just a copy of the slides for various people.
Okay. So I'm opening this other document now. Okay, I assume you can now see my new screen. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is the actual funding proposal that we have developed for one of the projects. As I said, the name can be anything, whether you call it a project profile, whether you call it a case for support, whether you call it a fundraising proposal or a funding proposal, whatever the name you might want to give it, but it's at the end of the day, the same thing. So in this case, we have called it project profile for this particular project called maternal and child health, MCH. It's one of RAWCS's projects, and what we have also done is we have created a QR code as well on the front there, so people can just scan the QR code and take them directly to the page on RAWCS's website, where they can read more about this project. So as you would remember just 5 minutes ago on the presentation, I was talking about having a clear executive summary. Here that is. So for this particular maternal and child health project, which is RAWCS project, MCH, what they're trying to do is they're working in these particular countries of Zambia, Uganda, and all of those. And the focus of this is to improve maternal and child health outcomes in low resource countries. So you can clearly see that by reading the first paragraph, it gives you a clear idea as to what it is that this project is trying to do. You don't have to read all the 7 or 8 or 9 pages to understand what it is about. At the very top, at the executive summary, it tells you what it is about, where exactly it is, and what exactly it is trying to achieve. It also, in the second paragraph, tells you the amount of money that they are after. They're only after $10,000 in this case. And what they will do with that is to expand training, to provide essential equipment, and ensure sustainable maternal outcomes in those countries. So that is what they will try to achieve with the $10,000 that they are after, right? It's also then providing clarity that this is a RAWCS project. And the reason why it is important for people to mention that this is a RAWCS project, because RAWCS is the overarching organization that has a tax deductible status, that is registered with AC&C as a not-for-profit organization that is responsible for reporting back to government and AC&C and ATO and all of that, right? Because a project in itself may not have its own entity. There are some of our projects that are entities in their own right, but the absolute majority of our projects are not entities in their own right. Isn't that right, Belinda?
Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, when you are going and raising money, whether from the corporate sector or from the philanthropic sector, you need to actually say which organization you're from. You can tell them that you are from this project, but that project in itself is not a registered charity. So if the donor is even ready to give you money and directly give you the money, then there may be no tax deductibility. So therefore, it's very important to mention that, well, this is part of this particular mechanism being RAWCS, and therefore it's tax deductible. Then the next thing is when we say about us, there's a history of RAWCS. And when, as a donor, I read this, let's say if I was receiving this, I'm saying, oh, okay, so this organization called RAWCS been around from 1966. Oh, wow, that's about 60 years. And they have made $500 million available in aid. Wow, okay, they work in 45 countries. So these are like main things that give me trust when I look at this particular proposal. And then when I read the mission of this organization, I say, oh, okay, so these guys are not only a not-profit organization, but they are very clear in what areas they work in. They work in education and literacy. They work in maternal, child, and health. They work in peace. They work in all these other areas as well. Of course, this particular project is in the second of those icons, right? Which is the second one from the left, which is maternal and child health. Isn't that the case? Right? That's the area that this project is under. And then, of course, you have the vision in there. And then the value proposition of RAWCS as an organization is that it's part of the Rotary family, part of the Rotary brand, that we have a long history of 60 years, that we have a large network of Rotary volunteers, being yourselves, that we have diversity of causes, that we are quite agile. We can stand up a project very, very quickly and deliver on it, that we have a complete ecosystem, that we within the organization have different things. For example, we have Rotarians Against Malaria. We have Rotary Australia repurposing equipment. And oftentimes we actually collaborate to make things happen for a particular project. And also the other thing that is very important that you need to sell as part of your fundraising proposal is that there's very low admin fee. Some of you may have heard from me previously in other webinars that there are other not-for-profit organizations, the likes of Oxfam and CARE and I don't know others, whose administration fee is about 28% or 30%, in some cases 32%. That's quite huge as compared to the 5% that RAWCS charges. So therefore, these are the types of things that you need to tell your donors and try to attract their attention. So I'll stop here before moving forward to answer any questions on this first part of the fundraising proposal. And then I'll go to this other part. Any questions, John?
Just a question on tax deductibility for Australian donors only from Patricia Veal.
That's exactly right. Yes. So this is only RAWCS as an organization is registered with the Australian government, and the Australian government tax deductibility applies to Australian donors making donations to these types of projects. So this is not American donors or Canadian donors or others. It's Australian.
That's the only question.
Okay. Sometimes when I don't have lots of questions, just so you know, everyone, I then make a joke. I say, well, I'm either doing such a great job that I clearly explain everything and therefore there are no questions, or that people are not paying attention or sleeping. I can see most of you whose cameras are on, so you are not sleeping. I can see that. So I would encourage you asking questions if you have them. But again, as I say, toward the end, we'll have a Q&A session as well, where you can actually unmute yourself and ask the question by speaking to your microphone.
There's
I don't know if you have. Go on, please.
One further question. Do we need to cut or can we cut and paste the mission and vision of RAWCS?
Yes, exactly. So when I give you this template, which I'm showing right now on my screen, this is a Word document, right? So we'll give you the Word document and you just take it, keep the sections of RAWCS as is. You don't have to kind of like do anything, and then update the other parts for your own project. So that way it is much quicker for you. That's one way of doing it. Of course, you can copy and paste also if that's easier for you. Okay, now I'd like to introduce this thing. I have introduced it in some of the other webinars. I'm not sure if all of you have seen it before or no, but it is a big thing in the philanthropic sector, particularly when you go to family foundations and corporate foundations, that when you're making a business case before them or a fundraising proposal, one of the things that they ask you often, not always, but most of the time, is to say, what is your theory of change? That's kind of like a trendy thing in the in the fundraising space these days. And what they mean by that is that, okay, you're doing this great work with this particular maternal child and mother's project, but what does that actually mean, right? So therefore, what we have tried to explain for RAWCS in this pyramid here, the theory of change, that at the very bottom, at the base of the pyramid, are the various inputs in activities that happen. So you can see on the left-hand side, there's this thing that says input in activities. So what it says is that with 60 years of history and a track record of delivering more than 5,000 successful humanitarian projects with a value of $500 million, coupled with advanced humanitarian project management systems, being part of the Global Rotary Network, we undertake humanitarian aid, benevolent relief, and disaster response projects overseas in Australia. So this is kind of like our activities, right? But that does not mean anything to a donor. Yes, you're doing work in the not-for-profit space. That's what it means, right? So what did that result in is the next level above the base, which is slightly turquoise on my screen. I don't know how it is looking like in yours, but it is the second level in the ladder or in that pyramid. And that say that as a result of that work, or our activities overseas, schools and hospitals are built, clean water, sanitation, and disease prevention and economic development is taking place. We are working on environmental protection tools also. And also in Australia, emergency financial and medical support is provided, shelter is provided to people, and we are assisting communities with bushfire, drought, and things like that. So you can see that it is actually now becoming more meaningful, right? And then once you move to the next level, that results in the enhanced infrastructure and services result in returning community dignity, hope, self-sufficiency, and reduced economic dependence, right? And then that leads to, therefore, the quality of life of people is improved in communities where we serve, right? And then finally, at the very top of the pyramid, the community that we work with are thriving and resilient, right? So that's the end goal. You need to tell people that what is the end goal with your work. For example, if we have sent 40 containers full of medical equipment through our rare project to overseas countries, that does not mean anything. It's just 40 containers. How is that helping humans in those countries? How is that impacting positively? That's very, very important. And this particular pyramid or the theory of change actually shows that as to what it is doing in terms of impact. So now that the introduction part is finished, that was the introduction part. Now we move to the exact need. Now we start talking about, okay, what is the need? What problem it is that we are trying to solve here? And the problem is that in many low resources countries where access to quality health care is limited and maternal and infant mortality rate are high, right? So that is the problem that we're trying to solve. And then there's also example and data that we have used here that globally approximately 260,000 women die each year from pregnancy and childbirth related causes. And 90% of these deaths are actually preventable and are in middle to lower economy countries. So you can see the context here, right? We're trying to solve a problem. The size of it worldwide is quite large. We're trying to work on this in this particular country or in these particular countries, and it's very, very specific. There's also some other data that we have used here as to how many deaths are there per 100,000 live births. What's the percentage in sub-Sahara countries and in all of that. It's very important that when you are writing your own funding proposal, that you give some context to the donor of the problem in that particular context or generally in the world, so that people actually understand what exactly it is that you are trying to tackle as a problem. Some of these are, of course, wicked problems. As I said, we can't solve it all together. We need to be just doing our own little part in it. And therefore, being very clear with our solution is important. So the solution is that the funding targeted health initiative that strengthen healthcare capacity, expand access to service, and deliver life-saving interventions. That's what the solution is about here, right? We know the problem and we know the solution here. And then we move to impact and outcomes. These are the impact and outcome that we are trying to create, right? It also speaks about, in this particular case, that this project been running for some time. It has already delivered measurable results across multiple countries. For example, in Malawi, midwives are trained in ultrasound techniques, improving early detection of complications. In Papua New Guinea, family planning and other programs being implemented. In Uganda, marginalized women are now accessing particular surgeries. So collectively, this particular project can speak about the work that they have done previously. If you have a new project, of course, you will not have any runs on the board. But if you have an existing project, which I believe that majority of you do, then you can speak about the results that you have achieved so far. And this is where you can also then speak about the human side of things. You can tell the story of a particular human being or a particular woman who was in such a bad situation, and as a result of your intervention, this is what had happened. And that has actually had an impact not only on her, but also on her family, but also the wider community. As I said earlier, being clear about the funding requirements is one of the things, one of the criteria of a successful fundraising application. In this case, these people are very clear to how much money they want and what exactly that they would like to achieve with that $10,000. Being specific here about how the donor or the person or the persons reading this can contribute is also another good thing about this particular application. Keep in mind that it's not only the finances that you potentially want from a donor. Sometimes you need volunteers. Sometimes you need someone's skills. Sometimes you need goods or in-kind donations. So it's very important to be clear at what exactly it is that you are in need of. Yes, you may be needing $10,000, but maybe at the same time you need 5 midwives of Australian background to come with you on this trip to Uganda to be there for 4 weeks to actually help that community. So that could be another thing. So it's not only the $10,000. So you can make it very specific as to what type of support you're seeking in this case. And then you can, of course, speak about how you recognize your donors, whether it's on your website, whether it is in the public space, when you're doing events and you're saying that their donor has given you money to make this possible, whether it's on your marketing material, what type of kind of like give back is there in this project if I'm a donor? How can I or my corporate benefit from this partnership? Where will you talk about my corporation or my organization? In some cases, also, it's important to say that how often you will bring them to see the project in person, or how often you'll report back to them, and then speak about the governance and accountability. In this case, because you are all part of the RAWCS structure, you can say here and keep this particular section as is without removing it, to say that RAWCS is registered with ACNC, we are registered with ACFID, we are registered with ATO, with ASIC, and we are now a member of ACFID, and soon we'll be going towards getting accreditation by DFAT. So that all actually help a donor understand that there are different regulators that are overseeing the work of RAWCS in all of its projects, because each one of the project report kind of like gets combined and is reported back to the government as part of our annual information statement that Belinda is working on these days, or annual report that we are preparing, and other reports that the government may be seeking from us from time to time. And then in this case, we have provided a particular link that people can click easily to take them particularly to this page on our website, so people can make donations. There's a QR code as well. There are contact details of the people who are responsible for this particular project. And then here are some of the photos, right? Again, I read somewhere, I think, if I remember correctly, that one photo tells 1,000 stories or something like that. It is very important to include photos and imagery in there. So you can see here somewhere, I think in Africa, that I don't know whether these people are doctors or what community members, but they're investigating a pregnant person. You can see in this other country that they are probably working on a patient. You're seeing here other nurses or midwives. You can see here another doctor or whoever it may be. Yes, so it tells you kind of like visually as to what this particular project actually does or is trying to achieve. Again, as you can see, it's very short. It's not very long, right? So how many pages? 7 pages in total. And out of those 7 pages, 2 pages are actually photos, right? So 5 pages, very short, very brief. And also, even if the donor does not have time for 5 pages, they can just read half a page executive summary and understand what this whole project is about. So I'll close here for now and answer any questions, and then I'll proceed further.
Yes, Mahir, we've had a couple of questions. Well, one was from Rosemary to clarify the tax deductibility. It's only for those who actually lodge an income tax return, those who don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Australian donors, yep.
Yes, Australian donors. So, okay, so, and the next one was answered. Robert Herman asked, how do we add details of an existing project? Should we put in a success story? And I think you've covered that. And the next one is, our project is new. How do we address the impact section?
Yes, I think when you have new projects, then you are, of course, speaking about the forecasted impact, right? You're talking about, okay, if you give me $10,000, I'll be helping 50 women in this particular community, right? Or if you give me $10,000, I'll be building 2 schools. So it is about the impact that you are going to be projecting to be achieving with that intervention, whether that's financial intervention or other intervention. So that's what you can focus on.
That's all the questions that I have.
Okay, great. I'll now go to the rest of the slides. Here we are. Okay, tips for success. I believe there should be, or I expected that there'd be more questions on the actual fundraising proposal, but I'd be happy to have more of those in the Q&A towards the end. So here are some tips for success that I wanted to share. I can't emphasize enough to what of a great resource this particular fundraising guide it is that we have written earlier in the year. If you don't have a copy of that, as I said, you can get a copy of this from us. This provides you a good information about how you can go about fundraising. Because what we are doing today in today's webinar, it is very specific to how you write a fundraising proposal, right? But the fundraising guide that I'm talking about speaks about the overall ecosystem of fundraising, as in how do you engage donors, how do you find them, where do you go to network with them, how where do you go to find fundraising opportunities in all sorts of things. So that is kind of like more of an overarching fundraising ecosystem kind of like guide. And what we are doing today is particularly as to how you can write a fundraising proposal. The second thing is that we have not done it for this particular project that I've explained today, but you could also align your project's outcomes with what you call the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'll speak about that in a moment on the next slide. But that's another way of you explaining very clearly to your donors or potential donors as to how your work is making an impact on the global scale on areas that are already identified as part of a bigger United Nations scheme. I've mentioned storytelling a few times today about emotionally connecting with your donors, emotionally telling the stories. We have not included in this particular version that we've explained today any exact story of a person or a few people, but I think that's another very successful way of you making sure that you expand your chances of success by emotionally connecting your potential donors to your recipients. Visuals, testimonials, and community voices, and including of those in your proposal are very important things that you can consider. And following up with donors, being aware as to what time, when it that the donor application round is opening up. It's usually around March, and it's usually around this time, October, November, this time of the year. So these are the two times which are really big on fundraising applications. So you can look up there on the two platforms that we have provided you and try to make sure that you remember when to apply. Before those application rounds open, the donors would have mentioned as to when these rounds are opening. So you can actually make note of those in your calendars so that you do not forget. Now here it is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you may have heard Millennium Development Goals, MDGs they used to be called. This is many, many years ago. I remember about 20 years ago, I used to work with the United Nations and then with the World Bank myself as an early career person. And at the time, we had Millennium Development Goals, which were the goals that were developed by the United Nations for the entire world, for the entire of that millennium, for the entire of that period of 100 years. And then they changed it at the earlier part of this century to what we call sustainable development goals. So the focus on in the first half of this century is on these types of goals. There are 17 of them, as you can see. And oftentimes it's very clear that if you're working in one area, then you can identify at least one goal here that you can mention in your fundraising proposal. So in this particular fundraising proposal that we were discussing today, I can clearly see that there are at least 1 to 2 things that I can see. So which one is the one on? Okay, so the first one is no poverty, then second is zero hunger, good health and well-being. So you see number 3 is the one that clearly is under this project is under number 3. But oftentimes it also has an impact on other things as well. So for example, if people have good health, then it can also lead to no poverty and also other good things that come out of that. So it's important to make use of this as well in your fundraising proposals. Okay, now collaboration with RAWCS. One thing that is very important, I'll invite my colleague Belinda to speak about this, but let me quickly explain. Belinda, I've been asking you, I think, for now good 6 to 12 months?
Yes.
Or 6 months?
12 months.
12 months. For a good 12 months, Belinda been reaching out. Can I say? Okay. We've been asking for one-pagers from projects to come to us. So those one-pagers that Belinda been asking, it's just a one-pager with some photos and some high-level information. Those are actually assisting us to develop this 7-pager that we have shown to you today, right? Those one-pagers are also helping us when we go and talk to potential donors, then we can remember that, oh, okay, there is a particular project of ours, because there are 430 or so projects that RAWCS has. We can't remember all of them. But if you send us your one-pagers and we know about them, then we can actually present them to various donors or partners. To just give you an example, it was last week, I think, when Nish and I went to an event in the city here in Sydney, and we met some people who do fantastic work in the climate space. We knew of 2 of our projects. One is called Food Plant Solutions, and the other one is Who Gives a Rat? We Give a Rat? Okay. I thought it is okay. We give a rat. So these are 2 environmental projects that we have. And because we knew about these 2 projects, we actually spoke to those partners or potential partners about these 2 projects of ours. And today, again, in the morning, we had another meeting about that. So there's a potential that we'll be introducing these 2 projects with those people, and there'll be good things coming out of that partnership. There may be funding that's coming out of that partnership. There may be other support. So therefore, if you send us those one-pagers, this actually helps us in promoting your projects to other people. So I'll mute my mic here and let Belinda speak about this for a moment, and then I'll come back. Belinda?
Hi all.
I just want to go on now.
Yeah. So thank you for being here today. Now I sent out a PowerPoint template multiple times. And if you want me to send you out another copy of that, please indicate in the group chat. So what it is just a 1-page PowerPoint template where you can add a very brief description. Easy to describe your project using a brief overview and probably 3 to 4 photos. Everything's just there for you just to slot it in, put your project name, project number, photos, brief overview. Very easy to update as the project evolves. It's a good quick communication tool that we can use. I can hand that on to Nish if she needs to then help you put in you need to do another proposal. So yeah, it can be adapted for so many different audiences. So what I'll do, if you forward me your 1-pagers, I will upload them to your project under documents where your MOU is on the RAWCS database. It's where you log in to do your project reports, see your transactions. But if anybody has any issues or whatever, or in developing it, please contact me. I'd like to get them all in so that we've just got so many 1-pagers that we're overwhelmed, and that we can use it for a marketing tool for you guys to raise money for your project.
Yes. And it is simple, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
there are just a few photos, and what other
Yeah.
information it contains?
All it is a really just very brief overview on your project, but put in the important points of your project. Yeah, the name of it's so important. And the photos, as Mihir said, they just tell a story, like really good, clear, precise photos. 4 photos tell the whole story of your project. It's amazing how people look at them and just think, wow, what a great project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you. If you've got any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Always here to assist you guys. Thank you.
If you now yes, we'll come to the questions. Before we come to the questions, I would like to call on my brand new colleague Nish to speak about this new initiative that we have now undertaken, whereby we have registered with a company or a platform called Good Company. What Good Company does is that Australian corporates, there are a large number of them who are on this particular platform called Good Company. And employees of those corporates, when they want to donate to a cause that may be close to their heart, all of those causes are put on this platform. The employees go and make a donation, and then their employer matches their donation 1-for-1. So, for example, if an employee gives $100, then the employer would also double that by giving another $100 to make it $200. We have now registered on that platform, and we are putting your projects on that. So I'd like to invite Nish to speak further about that. I'll close my. Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah. Hey guys, so as Mahir's mentioned, we're using Good Company for this new initiative. Right now, it is only for Rotary Australia Overseas Aid Fund programs. So if I have started sending out emails to people asking for, if your project is available, if you could please send through pictures. And not just that, how it works on their website is we have to have a specific amount and share what that amount is going for. For example, if it was the medical project we just saw, we would say $100 for medicine for one person, something like that. It has to be very specific to your project. So if you haven't come back to me yet, just share through your project ID, pictures, and whatever that one-liner is for that amount value. And yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to just send through an email.
Nish, do you want to also speak about the fact that these one-pagers that Belinda are asking for,
Yeah.
these could also be used for that? So, for example, if people are sending the one-pagers, then they don't have to send any other information. We use those to actually put them there. So there are multiple usages of these one-pagers.
Yeah. And if you are doing it through Belinda as well, just make sure you include that money amount, because if you're a
Sorry, I'm not sure if people heard me because I've muted myself, so you need to probably repeat what I just said.
Okay, so if you're already sending through the one-pagers to Belinda and you are part of that Overseas Aid Fund program, just make sure on that you include this monetary value thing that I've just mentioned. That way you don't have to overlap on it, and then I can just use that information for myself. But do make sure that the pictures on there are very high quality, because then we can use it for this website, but also in our social media in the months coming forward. And that helps to get word out there for your projects and get money in the future as well. Lovely. Were there any questions?
Okay.
There are questions, but I think they're for Mahir.
Okay, so let's answer those questions before we move forward.
I've got to go back a little. We've got a heap of people that have requested.
Yep, no, I'm writing them down, so I will.
Right. So one of the ones that came up, an environment project from Patricia Veal. The environment project you'll be presenting, can it also promote solar solutions for my project?
Solar solutions?
Yeah.
I believe it would be. I believe it would be as part of that. Yes, I think I don't have the details of the environmental trust guidelines in my head, but it's of course available on our website. But I believe that yes, it should be part of that.
Yeah, the environment projects have to be managed by the sponsoring club. Can't be farmed out to a third party. Just remember that.
Yes. So I think John, you'd like to mention to Patricia as to where she can go to our website to get those details. I'm happy to share my screen and show people where that is. But just in case if people don't know, it'd be good for them to actually have a clear understanding of where that information is. Please, you keep continuing, and then I'll do this in a moment.
Yeah, I'll make sure Patricia gets a copy of from the website.
Okay, so here's our website for those of you who may have not visited our website recently. Of course, you go to rawcs.org.au and this is our website. All of the information is there. Now, you'll note at the very top there are two major buttons. There is a donate button. When people click on that donate, then they can select which project that they are donating to. It may be your project, or you can click on the Rotarian Center button, which is the blue button. Now, under the Rotarian Center button, when you click on that, then you can click on register a new project. And once you click on the register new project, then you can come down here and say, okay, is it an overseas aid project that you're registering? Is it an Australian Benevolent Society project that you're registering? Is it a compassionate grant project that you're registering? Is it the environmental one that you're registering? And when you click here on the environmental one, this is where you can go and register the project, but also you can see all the details of the detailed guidelines in that section as well. Yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. You can download the criteria for that there.
Yes.
So there was another question. Should they include links to videos in the...
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anything that you can provide people where they can see photos or videos, or your website if you have a website, or if you have a Facebook page or Instagram page, or I don't know, TikTok page, please do include them in there.
Now, there's one here from Bryce McNair. ARAM really needs international funders in addition to our clubs. In our approach to international funders, how should we steer our way through the international funding environment post-Trump? In some cases, you could argue that we are filling the gaps created by USAID changes. In other cases, that won't help. Is there a RAWCS corporate view?
Yes. Good question, Bryce. What we are trying to do with ARAM, there are some board members I can see them being online, John Robertson being one of them. I think there were discussions recently that ARAM, who is now managed by Andrea, and I think I saw Andrea earlier.
Yeah.
She's there. If she's still on, she may unmute herself and speak about this. But I understand that they are working on an international funding application to get some money from what's the Rotary International Global thing?
The Global Fund.
Global grants
Global grant. Thank you.
from the Rotary Foundation.
Yes. Who said that? Is that
Andrea.
Andrea? Okay, Andrea, can you please speak about that?
Yeah, look, I think Bryce is well aware of this. So he's on our management committee. We met a week or so ago. But yeah, I think one way that we are looking at getting international funding is through global grants, through the Rotary Foundation, excuse me. But I think we're trying to turn our gaze to other areas. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't have an answer for that. And I think that that's something that we need to talk about. And obviously any any options that are open through or assistance we can get from RAWCS is a good thing, and we'll be using our other partnerships where we can as well with RAM Global and other entities that we come across and work with from time to time.
Yeah. Bryce, another thing in addition to this global grant thing is that you may be aware there was this Finish the Fight kind of like appeal as part of the ARAM thing. And one of the things that we were doing as part of that we'd like to come back to at the right time is identifying international companies, multinational corporations, MNCs as they call them, or mining companies, particularly in those countries whereby there is malaria or malaria needs to be eliminated in those countries. So that is another focus that we need to bring to this thing, because you're right, it is more of global kind of like multinational types of companies funding that's required. And actually that's big funding, it's not small funding that's required there. So some of these projects that we are talking about, $10,000 is nothing. You can't do anything with malaria for $10,000. So I think that requires a different type of strategy. Also, I think
you would be surprised, Mahir, excuse me, you would be surprised what you can do for a relatively small amount of money to actually make a difference with things, but we can have that conversation later.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing that Nish and I have been doing is we've been identifying Australian corporations, major Australian corporations, and reaching out to them to seek support from them, particularly for South Australia. Some of you may be aware that there's drought happening still. There's hay needed that we are providing as part of one of our projects. And with Bill Marles and our Deputy Chair, Paul Thomas, Nish and I, the four of us met, and we've been looking into Australian corporations, but particularly those Australian corporations that either started from South Australia or currently have their headquarters in South Australia. And some of them are mining companies as well. So we are targeting those also for big ticket funding. And I think that could be applicable for ARAM also down the line. So there are those types of initiatives that we are doing in the background as well.
I hear a couple of other questions.
Yeah.
One to Nish was from Charlene. How do you get included on the overseas funding project with Good Company? How do you know whether your project is included?
So Charlie, just send me an email and I'll include that one for you as you're part of the Overseas Aid Fund.
And a further question from Patricia Veal. I've sent a one-pager in, but she's obviously got a specific campaign or appeal. Can I have a separate one-pager for that also?
If this is for the Good Company website, then we can do multiple. No, then I'll.
No, I think this was addressed to Belinda, perhaps. I'm not sure. Patricia, maybe you could unmute yourself and ask the question.
Patricia, how do you normally get in contact with your funding people? Because if you've got a specific campaign, we might be able to put that on Good Company but the one pages are to be used.
Patricia needs to unmute herself.
Yeah, the one pages are just for us to have on file and for you to use as a marketing tool, Patricia.
You're up. Patricia, you should.
Top right up the top next to leave, you'll see the mute mic.
Yes. So
okay, great. We can hear you now.
You can hear me. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I think I kept unmuting. I kept muting myself. So yes, I had sent a one-pager to Belinda. And so what I'm just asking is whether it can maybe be a page 2, which is like a sub-project within that. That's, for like a solar project. So I'd seen a note from Belinda in the can you please can you send me the one pager, please? So I thought that Belinda might have responded to that, but you weren't Belinda, or were you? Was that in response to me?
Yep.
Okay.
Patricia, I have got all the messages from everybody and I will send out the one page template to everybody again that has messaged me, that have gone in the chat. I'll take a note of everybody that needs the one pager again, and I will send it out. But Patricia, look, there's no point in probably having a second page unless you're going to use it for your own benefit, for your project's benefit.
But also for niche
because I'm keeping them on file for use, for future use, or use on Good Company, but they're there for everybody to use as your project, to promote your project.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, well, maybe I must produce it and then you can see what application it can or can't have. But I'm specifically asking whether niche can include it in her project as well. You know, that application that she was talking about for environment. So if the one pager could be a 2-pager, because then it says something about the company.
Yeah, she'll definitely include it. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go to this last part and then come to questions. There's very few items left here on the last page, and then we are anyways in the questions part anyways. Yes. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So one pages we were just talking about. The other thing is that we'd like to post your project success stories on RAWCS' social media. We are quite active on Facebook. We are active on Instagram. If you have success stories that you'd like to share with us, whether those are written success stories, whether those include photos or part of videos, it'd be really great, because the reality is, whether we like it or not, that the fundraising space is quite crowded. There are so many projects out there in Australia that are deserving of support, of financial support. And then when you come to RAWCS, of course, all of our projects are also deserving of the support. So therefore, it is more of like a marketing game here, that the more we promote your project, the more we are able to tell your success stories, the more chances there are to find financial backing and otherwise. So therefore, it's very important, if you tell us about your project's success, you share with us, then we can actually share that on social media and then put the links to your project funding, so people can donate to that. I can tell you that recently we've been putting some of our posts on social media, and we actually boosted by paying Facebook to kind of like promote those ads. We've been raising some good money there. I think in one case, $25,000 in the month of September, it was niche that we have raised. Yeah, so you can see that there are situations like that we are raising quite good money through social media and all that. All we need is success stories from you, photos from you. If videos are there, that's great as well. And then we'll put it there and then we'll promote it. So if you want us to assist you, you need to share with us the ingredients to make that success possible. The other thing is that we facilitate introductions. Just like I said today, Nish and I were meeting with a potential partner who are active in the environmental space, and there are 2 projects within RAWCS that we have identified that we would like to introduce them. So we can do that, but we can only do that once we know about your projects, because to remember 430 projects on the top of our head, that's quite a task, right? And of course, we keep adding new projects every day. We can also provide feedback and advice on your grant applications. When you write your grant application to funders, you can share them with us. We'll be happy to review them and provide you feedback so you can improve them. And then we can also ensure that we assist with stewardship of your donors, so that the donors are ensured that the organization through which their funding is coming through is also assisting in terms of like that engagement. So that's all from me, and I'd like to open it to questions. Yeah, that's good. Why don't you speak about that as well? I'll just close my screen and then I'll mute myself and then you go ahead.
Yeah. So guys, just another thing, if you are thinking of doing any RACG projects, so the Compassionate Grants ones, then right now Dick Smith has just donated us another $1 million. And with that, any projects where you raise up to $15,000, that fund will match it to that value. So if your project needs 10,000, we will match it to 10,000. So just let us know and make that application and it'll come through.
I think that's a very good point that Nish raised. We have now $1 million available in RAWCS to give to projects in $15,000 chunks. This $1 million was provided to us recently by Dick Smith. It is for compassionate grants. To give you a few examples of compassionate grant usage in your communities, let's say if you know in your Rotary Club community, or where your Rotary Club kind of like operates, if there is someone who has a severe type of illness that's not covered by NDIS and this person needs more support, you may just apply to RAWCS to give you $15,000, but the requirement would be that your club also raises $15,000 more to kind of like match that, so that becomes $30,000 to give to that. It may be a domestic violence thing that you're supporting. It may be any other initiative that are deserving of compassion. So that money is available for all of your clubs and it is with RAWCS. You don't have to apply to anyone else. It's with us and that money can be given to you. The guidelines of the RACG are on our website. As I showed you earlier, you go to our website, you click on the Rotarian Center and you click on register new project. Once you click on the register new project, there is one of those 6 tiles. One of them is called Rotary Australia Compassionate Grants. That's where you go. All the details are there. As I said, $15,000. It's available with RAWCS, and we can make it available. You don't have to apply to another foundation or another organization, and it can be available very, very quickly. It's up to $15,000. You do not need to have all the 15,000. It can be 10,000, 5,000, whatever the situation may be. So please have a look into that, and I'm glad that Nish remembered that, so we can highlight that, and the sooner we can get the money out to clubs for good causes, the better it is. Okay, so now in the formal Q&A part, happy to answer any questions that I may have not answered so far. And now we can unmute ourselves when we're asking the question. You don't have to type it anymore.
Mihir, we have one in the
questions,
chat
comments.
Mihir, can you hear me?
Please unmute yourself if you have a question. Charlene?
Yeah. So in the RAWCS project fundraising guide.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you speak now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, great.
Okay, awesome. So in the RAWCS fundraising guide, that template that you presented was a case for support. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's one. And then step 2, it says prepare a pitch deck. So are you suggesting that we do both? And if that's the case, when do we use one or the other?
Yeah, good question. That's very good practical question. So usually in my experience, when we have a case for support that we discussed today, and you have also a pitch deck, which is a PowerPoint presentation. When you go meet with people, it's good to have a PowerPoint presentation with high kind of like bullet points. Let's say 5 pages or 6, 7 pages of PowerPoint at a high level, and then you can like flick through those, or you show them on your computer or on a projector or something like that. So that way, then you can have an engagement with them and talk them through that and all that, and then leave them this detailed document. because the one that we showed you today was just 7 pages. Maybe yours is 9 pages or 10 pages or 15 or 20 pages, right? So therefore, the detailed one, that is the Word document, leave that with them to read. But the PowerPoint that is the one that you can actually talk to them when you're there, either online or in person. But if you're not meeting them online or in person, then of course you send them the Word document, not the PowerPoint.
Okay, radio. Okay, because sometimes they might will just say send something you've got so we can decide if we want to have that presentation. So that case for support would be that document.
Yeah. So oftentimes also when you're putting, by the way, this reminds me of another thing that I should have mentioned earlier. When you apply for funding, oftentimes the donors would have their own templates, right? They would have their own platform that they kind of like link you to, and then you put your project name and blah, blah, blah. Now, the question that they ask, I can almost guarantee that 90% of the question that they ask would be in the document that we spoke about today. The document that we presented today, 90% of those things will be in here, right? Oftentimes, they also ask for a budget. They say, okay, if you are asking for $10,000, how will you use that? Give me the sub background breakdown of that. So by us showing you this way of doing it, it is actually covering you for one-off kind of like emailed thing that you are emailing someone, a Word document to read, or if you are applying through their portal as well, you can use this document to copy and paste in their system as well.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. If no one else
Yeah,
does.
please go on. Please go on. We have 12 more minutes. Yep.
Belinda, the one pager, I've just done it and I was just about to send it to you, but I'm now going, should it be more like the details that you might include in your executive summary? I mean, obviously we're limited with text space, but it should be those more highlight executive summary stuff that you might have in your case for support or your pitch deck.
Yeah.
Did you get the question?
Yes. Yeah, Charlene, definitely. Whatever
Okay.
you can put in there that's the most relevant and engaging part of your project.
Okay, so some figures in there, so how much the project is costing? Well, but the project
probably
budget
that in the second part.
Okay.
Put that in the second part of the document.
And the project achievements, even though you haven't actually achieved them yet.
Project achievements or project goals or whatever you want to call it. You can change the headings.
That makes more sense to me now because the project achievements, ours is a new project, so I don't have any of the achievements.
Correct.
Yet. Okay.
So your project goals or whatever you want to achieve, but it's only just a brief document that you can just send. Yeah, it's a quick communication tool, basically.
Okay. I do have another question. Sorry. So the images. So ours is the borehole. So we have the mamas like carrying the water. So I've got images of that. Then should I have some images of what the actual outcome will be with the solar panels and so I have some photos from another project of what the outcome will be, what would it look like? So is it worthwhile in this one pager having, this is the situation now? Huh?
You can do a 2-page. You can have a 2-pager if you want. If you've got more than, you can have that, and you can actually tag the photos if you want to have a before and after shot.
Before and after that. So okay. Well, I might give you 2 different types, and then you guys can use whatever suits at different times.
But I know you've got some really good photos because we've
Okay.
We've kept those photos on our database.
Okay. Cool. No worries. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Thanks, Charlene.
Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah.
Yep. Go on, please.
Nish, is this for you? So actually, and even on the RAWCS, on the fundraising page, on the crowdfunding page, they suggest that you say, $100, and you said this for the good company, you have to say $100 is going to this. Okay. So with my this project, it's kind of like it's really hard to say, well, $100, well, it's going to go to the borehole project. Like, how do I kind of like present that in for you for good company and even on the RAWCS crowdfunding page? Because I've just broken it down now and said the borehole for the drilling will be 6,000, the solar panels will be this, blah, blah, but it's actually going to be delivered as one project. Well, that's what we hope we can.
So on the RAWCS project directory, you would have the overall amount.
Yep.
How we talked about stages 1 and 2. Right now, you're doing only stage 1.
Yep.
For the Overseas Aid Fund, we'll do it more broken down by this much for the panels, the solar panels,
Okay.
or this much for the pipes. So that might be like $1,000, $500. I'm not too sure. It won't be as small as $10. That was just an example.
So will we work together on developing that, or do I have to like, because like
you can just let me know the amounts, and since I already have information about your project, I can upload that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Riley.
Can I just ask something? Sorry, I may have turned my camera off. You did mention an option for internal RAWCS funding, and I'm afraid I didn't really follow what the issue was. It sounded like there were some funds available within RAWCS to support projects.
That's right, Professor. We have received $1 million from a donor called Dick Smith. And that $1 million is available in $15,000 chunks to Rotary clubs or Rotary districts to apply for compassionate grants. Now, the examples of some of the compassionate grants that we have are like, for example, you have someone in your community who deserves compassion. They have had a misfortune, they have had an accident, and they're not covered by NDIS or by insurance or whatever, or they are covered, but they are not sufficiently covered. So you want to kind of like provide that support to them. So you can apply to RAWCS to give you $15,000, but the condition is that you need to then raise $15,000 yourself, whether through your Rotary Club or otherwise, to match the $15,000 that RAWCS gives you. So the idea is that the $1 million that Dick Smith has given us, that will turn that into $2 million, because we are giving $1 million away, and then $1 million will come from the participating Rotary Club.
Okay. Actually, that is familiar. I remember that being mentioned before, and I'd forgot. Thank you. That's good. I've got it now.
This time it's domestic.
And this is, by the way, in Australia, not overseas.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with it. Thank you. That's much clearer.
Thanks, Professor. Charlene?
Is there a pitch deck template that RAWCS has, or it's being developed?
We do have one which we can share, not fully finalized, but I think it's probably good enough for us to share. So we can definitely do that. Yes.
And do I just reach out to Belinda?
And I can see that Nish is taking note of that sent to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. We have 5 more minutes. We don't have to utilize it all, but we still have 5 minutes.
Sorry, Nish's email. So I'm not familiar with it.
nish.eve@rawcs.org.au. That's nish.eve@rawcs.org.au.
Thank you.
And also, I mean, if you didn't note that down, you can simply email Belinda or myself, and we'll be happy to copy Nish on it.
Thank you.
And it's also in the chat right now. Nish just typed it in.
Thanks, Nish.
Patricia, as well, I've just sent you an email, so you should have it.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Sounds like no more questions. An hour and a half, quite long. Thank you for giving us that time. For those of us who are in the eastern part of Australia, it's already